They needed each other to become legends, and they nearly destroyed each other finding that out. The Pittsburgh Steelers won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, but 2 of those championships only happened because they first survived Oakland. 5 straight playoff games in 5 straight years. Every one of them brutal. Every one of them leaving something broken behind. On the field, in the locker room, eventually in a courtroom. Here's the question that haunts all of it. Did the rivalry make them or did it destroy them? Both answers are true. That's what makes it impossible to look away. In 1969, Chuck Noll inherited a franchise that had won nothing since the 1940s. Nothing. He didn't panic. He didn't promise championships. He sat down, studied his roster, and started cutting people who couldn't compete at the level he was building toward. Methodical, almost cold. He drafted Joe Green in 1969, Terry Bradshaw and Mel Blount in 1970, Jack Ham in 1971, Franco Harris in 1972, Jack Lambert in 1974. Each one a piece of something that didn't look like much yet, but was quietly becoming terrifying. Across the country, John Madden was building something too, but Madden built differently. Where Noll was a professor, Madden was a force of nature. He loved his players, knew their families, their injuries, their fears. He could smell weakness on an opponent and talent on his own roster in a way that looked almost supernatural. Al Davis had given him total control, and Madden used every inch of it. Ken Stabler, Gene Upshaw, Jack Tatum. The Raiders weren't just talented, they were mean, and they were proud of it. 2 franchises, 2 builders, 1 collision course. By 1970, Noll got his first real look at what Oakland was. Pittsburgh went to the Coliseum and got beaten 31-14. Noll filed it away. He was still building, but he knew exactly what was waiting when these 2 machines finally met at full speed. The price of building something great is that eventually you have to test it against something equally dangerous. But neither team could see yet just how high that price was going to run. Neither team knew yet what that testing was going to cost. December 23, 1972. 3 Rivers Stadium. The temperature is dropping and nobody in the stands cares. Pittsburgh is hosting a playoff game for the first time in decades. The city is electric in a way that cities only get when they've been starved for something long enough. Chuck Noll's draft picks are finally here. Harris, Bradshaw, Green, Ham, and the steel curtain is starting to announce itself to the league. This feels like the beginning of something, but beginnings are always the easy part. But Oakland didn't fly to Pittsburgh to watch a coronation. The Raiders had owned the AFL for years. They carried themselves like men who expected to win, and they expected to win today. Darryl LaMonica started, but 2 interceptions in the 3rd quarter prompted Madden to pull him. Stabler stepped in, young, fearless, with a left arm that could drop a ball into a phone booth from 40 yards. The Silver and Black believed this Pittsburgh game was a formality, a stepping stone. They were wrong about that. The game turned into a defensive war from the first snap. Every yard cost something. Franco Harris carried defenders for extra inches. Joe Green was collapsing pockets before Stabler could set his feet. Both offenses scraped, both defenses refused. By the 4th quarter, Pittsburgh held a 6-0 lead on 2 Roy Jarrella field goals, and the stadium was starting to sense something special. But football doesn't care about what a stadium senses. Oakland got the ball back with time bleeding away. Stabler had been in tighter spots. He moved the chain, 8 clock, kept the Raiders alive. 4th down, under a minute left. The pocket collapsed around him from both sides. Stabler scrambled left, accelerating past lunging Steelers, and dove for the pylon. Touchdown. 3 Rivers went silent in a way that stadiums only go silent when the worst possible thing has just happened. 7-6, Raiders. 60 seconds left. Pittsburgh's season dying with every tick off the clock. But there were still 60 seconds on the clock. 4th and 10, Pittsburgh 40-yard line. Bradshaw took the snap, felt the pocket disintegrate immediately, scrambled right, and launched a desperation heave downfield toward running back Frenchie Fuqua. Jack Tatum arrived at the same moment the ball did. The collision was savage. Helmet into ribs. Bodies separating violently. The ball ricocheted backward through the air like something that had no business going anywhere useful, spinning wildly, dropping toward empty turf. But Franco Harris had kept running. He caught it at his shoe tops, inches from the frozen grass, and accelerated toward the sideline before anyone in the stadium fully understood what they'd seen. A Raiders defender dove and missed. Harris cut upfield, nothing in front of him. He crossed the goal line. Three Rivers exploded. The officials huddled for what felt like an eternity, conferring, debating, weighing the rules against the moment. Oakland stood frozen. Finally, the referee turned and signaled touchdown. 13-7 Pittsburgh, game over. The Immaculate Reception had just been born. Oakland was convinced something had been stolen from them. Under the rules of 1972, an offensive player could not be the second man to touch a ball deflected by another offensive player. Only Tatum touching it would make it legal. The Raiders argued Fuqua touched it first. The officials ruled otherwise. To this day, nobody in Oakland has ever let it go. But rules and justice don't always occupy the same space. But what nobody fully understood yet was what that play started. It didn't just end a game. It lit a fuse that would burn for the next 5 years and consume everyone who got too close to it. What moment from this era is burned into your memory? Drop it below. The Immaculate Reception, a game you watched on a 12-inch TV, anything. The comments are yours. Oakland came back the following season already angrier than they'd arrived the first time. Madden had spent the offseason studying Pittsburgh, not casually, obsessively. Film sessions that ran until midnight, tendencies cataloged, weaknesses mapped. Stabler memorized the steel curtain's alignment patterns until he could anticipate their blitzes before they telegraphed them. The Raiders weren't going to get caught by Pittsburgh's defense again. They weren't. The 1973 AFC Divisional Playoff was not close, and it was not kind. Oakland dismantled Pittsburgh 33-14. Systematic destruction. Stabler carved up the steel curtain like it was an old map. Madden watched from the sideline with something that looked almost like relief. The humiliation of December 1972 temporarily lifted. The Raiders were back. But Pittsburgh was still building. And the toll of building a dynasty is that every loss either breaks you or makes you harder. Noel didn't tear his roster apart after that loss. He studied what Oakland had exposed and he fixed it, quietly, without announcement. He added pieces to the defense. He trusted Bradshaw more. He let Franco Harris grow into the full weight of what he could be. And somewhere in that offseason, the Steelers stopped being a good team on the rise and became something the rest of the AFC was going to have a very hard time stopping. Pittsburgh was getting harder, but Oakland was getting angrier. And angry plus preparation is a combination that tends to end badly for whoever's standing in front of it. December 29th, 1974. Oakland and Pittsburgh again. AFC Championship this time. The stakes raised another level. Noel's Steelers had bulldozed through the regular season. The steel curtain was now the most feared defense in football. Green was unblockable on his best days. Lambert played like a man with a personal grudge against everyone wearing a different color jersey. And Bradshaw was finally, fully, the quarterback Noel had always drafted him to be. Not managing games, but controlling them. But Madden's Raiders had Stabler, and Stabler was never going to stop believing he could win. Pittsburgh took control in the second half. The Steelers' offense ground Oakland down. Their defense suffocated Stabler's rhythm, forcing him into decisions he didn't want to make. When the final seconds ran out, the scoreboard read 24-13 Pittsburgh. The Steelers were going to their first Super Bowl, but Madden was still standing on the field. Nobody recorded exactly what he said afterward, but the people around him said he looked like a man who had just been told something true that he wasn't ready to hear. He believed in his team. He believed Stabler could find a way, but Pittsburgh had beaten him again. And now they were going to the Super Bowl, and Oakland was going home. The price was starting to show on Madden. The sleepless nights had already begun. Pittsburgh won the Super Bowl that January. Then they came back in 1975, drafted more talent, and did it again. And in January of 1976, Oakland and Pittsburgh met in another AFC Championship game. The fourth time in 5 years these two teams had to go through each other to go anywhere. But this time, Oakland had been watching what Pittsburgh did to opposing receivers, and they had decided to adopt the philosophy entirely. Lynn Swann was the target this time. The 1975 season had turned Swann into one of the most dangerous receivers in football. Precise routes, impossible catches. But Oakland understood something. If you couldn't cover him, you could still make him pay for every route. Jack Tatum had already established himself as the assassin. The Raiders were going to make Swann feel every single snap. They did. Swann took hit after hit throughout that AFC Championship game on January 4th, 1976. Some legal, some that landed in the gray area the NFL preferred not to examine too closely. He kept running routes. He kept making catches. Pittsburgh won 16-10, advancing to another Super Bowl. The fury on Pittsburgh's sideline was visible. Watching your receiver absorb that kind of punishment on every route does something to a team. The game ended. Pittsburgh was going to another Super Bowl, and Oakland was losing in the postseason to the Steelers for the third time in 4 years. Madden went home and didn't sleep much that winter. The ulcers were getting worse. Something was building in this rivalry that went beyond football. The hits were getting harder. The hatred was getting personal. Both teams believed the other had no respect for the line between competitive and criminal, and the clock was ticking on when that belief was going to spill off the field entirely. But nobody predicted it would go where it went next. What did you think when you watched those hits? 40-some years later, those games still get people arguing. If you're one of them, the comments are open. September 12, 1976, season opener, Oakland at Pittsburgh. Lynn Swann is running a route nowhere near the ball when George Atkinson's forearm finds the back of his helmet. There's no other word for it. It is a weapon-grade hit on a man who isn't even involved in the play. Swann goes down hard. When he gets up, he's not right. His second severe concussion in under a year. Chuck Noll did not stay quiet. After the game, Noll called what Atkinson did part of a criminal element in the NFL. Not a penalty, not a dirty play, criminal. Atkinson's attorney heard that word, and George Atkinson filed a $3 million defamation lawsuit against Chuck Noll. But Noll didn't retract a syllable. The rivalry had just walked into a courtroom. Noll testified under oath that, yes, he believed certain players in the league operated outside the spirit of the game. Named names. Atkinson's lawyers pushed back. The trial ran for weeks. NFL executives watched with poorly concealed horror as two of their marquee franchises aired everything in public. The hits, the culture, the code that everyone understood but nobody was supposed to say out loud. Noll won the lawsuit, but winning a lawsuit doesn't undo a forearm to the back of a man's helmet. This wasn't two teams hating each other on a football field anymore. This was documented. Sworn testimony, a permanent record of how far this rivalry had traveled from competition into something darker. The price of all those years of controlled violence had finally come due, and it came due in a way nobody had anticipated. Oakland and Pittsburgh were scheduled to meet again in the playoffs that January. The AFC Championship, December 27, 1976. But what happened there was going to settle something that even a courtroom couldn't reach. Pittsburgh came into that game wounded. They had just survived a brutal AFC divisional game against Baltimore that went to the final moments. Key backs were hurt. The defense was tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. The kind of tired that accumulates across a season of playing at maximum violence. And they were walking into Oakland's house to try to reach a fourth Super Bowl in 6 years. But they had nothing left in reserve. Oakland was ready in a way Pittsburgh wasn't. Stabler had spent the week in a quiet fury. Everything that had happened between these two franchises, the Immaculate Reception, the courtroom, the hits on Swann, the 3 playoff losses, all of it compressed into something cold and focused. Madden ran a game plan that attacked Pittsburgh's exhaustion. The Raiders were faster, fresher, and angrier. Pittsburgh had nothing left. Oakland won 24-7, not a game, a statement. Madden's relief afterward was almost physical, visible in the way his shoulders dropped when the final whistle blew. Stabler grinned the grin of a man who had been carrying a debt for 4 years and finally paid it off. The Raiders were going to the Super Bowl, and they would win it. And the championship Al Davis had built toward for a decade was finally, undeniably, theirs. In the Pittsburgh locker room, nobody said much. They had given everything they had to give. 4 years of going through Oakland. 4 years of taking those hits, winning those championships, absorbing that hatred and converting it into fuel. The fuel was finally gone. They ran out of things to give that January, and Oakland was right there to collect. But the sacrifice had been worth something. 4 Super Bowls said so. Pittsburgh still had more championships left in them. Oakland would go on to win 2 more Super Bowls. But the man who built the Raiders into what they were would never coach another game. John Madden retired after the 1978 season. He was 42 years old. The ulcers had been bad for years. The sleepless nights were worse. Madden genuinely cared about his players, cared in a way that Noel, for all his brilliance, didn't seem to carry as a visible burden. When a Raider got hurt, Madden felt it. When a game was lost, he couldn't let it go. And 5 years of going through Pittsburgh, of coming so close and losing 3 times before finally breaking through, had burned through something inside him that he couldn't rebuild. He walked away from coaching with a Super Bowl ring and a stomach full of ulcers and not a single regret. But the coaching game doesn't hand out refunds on what it takes. Oakland without Madden was a different organization. Al Davis moved the franchise to Los Angeles in 1982, a decision that shattered the community that had built the Raiders into what they were. The silver and black jerseys were the same, the history was the same, but the soul of the thing had relocated, and Oakland would spend the next 2 decades trying to understand what it had lost. Pittsburgh rebuilt. A new generation of Steelers emerged, but the team that had won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, that specific group of men, was aging out. Bradshaw's body had been paying installments on every hit he'd absorbed since 1970, and by the early 80s, the bill was coming due. Something had to give, and it was about to. And then came January 1st, 1984, AFC Divisional Playoff, Los Angeles Raiders versus Pittsburgh Steelers. This was supposed to be a rivalry game, another chapter, another brutal collision between 2 of the AFC's greatest franchises. But Pittsburgh arrived as a team out of time, and what happened was not a rivalry game, it was a funeral. The Los Angeles Raiders won 38-10. Bradshaw was done after that game. Not officially yet, but everyone who watched him knew. His body had given everything it had across 14 seasons, 4 Super Bowls, hundreds of hits absorbed behind a line, at the bottom of piles, getting up every time. But the body keeps a running tab. The dynasty ended not with a dramatic last stand, but with exhaustion. A score that told the whole story in 2 numbers, 38-10. No drama, no miracle play, just a great team at the end of its time, getting beaten by a franchise that had packed up and moved to Los Angeles. The rivalry had followed them there, but it wasn't the same. The clock that had been ticking since December 1972 had finally run out. So did the rivalry make them, or did it destroy them? Both. Completely and simultaneously both. Without Oakland pushing them to the absolute edge every single December, Pittsburgh doesn't find out what they're actually capable of. The steel curtain gets good, but does it get great? Bradshaw manages games, but does he have to be clutch under that specific kind of pressure without Oakland forcing the moment? Franco Harris is a great running back, but is he the man who made the most famous catch in NFL history without Jack Tatum and a ball that had no business going where it went? Without Pittsburgh beating them 3 times in 4 years, Oakland never earns the right to call themselves what they became, but it cost both of them enormously to find out. The Raiders needed those losses. They needed to study Pittsburgh's film until midnight. They needed Stabler to memorize the steel curtain's tendencies. They needed Madden's obsession to sharpen against something real and resistant and genuinely dangerous. The 3 playoff losses made the 1976 championship mean what it meant. Without the suffering, the payoff is just a win. With it, it's a validation of everything they sacrificed. But the sacrifice doesn't disappear once you hold the trophy. The price was enormous on both sides. Lynn Swann's brain paid part of it. Bradshaw's body paid a larger part. Madden paid with his stomach lining and his sleep, and ultimately his career. The Oakland community paid it when the franchise packed up and moved south, taking the memories and leaving behind a city that had believed in something. And the players who took those hits in those games, the ones that would be illegal today, the ones that ended up in a courtroom, they're carrying those hits in ways that don't stop when the career ends. But not one of them has ever said it wasn't worth it. Not a single one. Not the Immaculate Reception. Not the 33-14 beatdown. Not the lawsuit. Not the championship games that kept refusing to be easy. Because out of all of it came something that neither franchise could have manufactured alone. A rivalry so genuinely vicious, so perfectly matched, so sustained across 5 straight years of playoff warfare that it became the standard against which everything else in that era gets measured. But the standard cannot be separated from what building it cost. The Pittsburgh Steelers needed the Oakland Raiders to become a dynasty. The Oakland Raiders needed the Pittsburgh Steelers to become champions. And both of them needed the other to become something more than just a football team. To become a piece of history that the men who watched those games on 12-inch TVs in 1972 are still arguing about in 2024. That's not a rivalry. That's something rarer. That's two franchises locked in a defining collision, each one sharpening the other until both of them cut through everything in their path. The toll was real. The sacrifice was real. But so was everything it built. Both of them knew the price. Both of them paid it. Neither of them ever stopped believing it was worth it. Which side of this rivalry were you on? Steelers or Raiders? And was there a moment from those 5 years that you still see when you close your eyes? The comments are yours.